Hi there, welcome back to the Finley Formation. This is Brandon.
This Gage.
And this is Jared.
Okay, we're going to continue on with our team's history and off season. We're doing it in a draft order from 32 to 1. We are now at number 4. Jared did the Jaguars in our last episode at number 5. So he cracked the top 5 for us. Getting down to some of these teams where pretty much these guys had to do really good in free agency too, I think. Not just in the draft, so they had to pick it up. But we're going to go on with the Patriots here, which pretty crazy. Patriots have been pretty decent, I guess, at one point in history. But the Patriots started in 1959 is when they were established, so they've been around for 65 years. They were the Boston Patriots from 1960 to 1970. I can't remember. I didn't write down who their first owner was, but Robert Kraft is the current owner, and that's actually the Kraft. I guess they have like a corporation type thing going on with the Kraft. So with Robert Kraft and a couple other owners, however
Any
that works
relation
out,
to Tucker Craft?
I doubt it.
I think they're the Kraft like mac and cheese.
That's what I was wondering if it was like
Yeah,
the
I think
cheese
so,
company. I
yeah.
think there might be heirs of
And when
that.
did
Well,
he
then they
take over?
should have bought Green
He
Bay
took-
instead.
I think he took over in was it like the late 90s?
Oh, did he?
Yeah, I didn't write that down, but I think it was. And he actually had some like failed startups. Robert Kraft did.
Okay.
Like they used to have like a tennis league or something like that. So he had a tennis team, and so yeah, I was reading on some of that stuff, and then he looked into buying the Celtics, wanted to buy the Red Sox, and then finally ended up buying the Patriots.
Oh, wow.
So yeah. All right, so this is the fun part. They have 6 league champs, all Super Bowls. 01, 03, 04, all Super Bowls that they won. 2014, 2011, and 2017 was Super Bowls that they went to and won. So there were 6. Now they have no Super Bowl wins before Tom Brady, but they made it to 2 without him. So they've 11 conference champs overall. Only 2 before Brady, which was 85 and 96. And I think it was in 96 that I think it was the Cowboys that beat him in 96.
Packers, right?
Oh, Packers. Yeah,
Packers,
I
good
think
call.
it was
Yeah,
Packers. Was it
that's right. That was Brett Favre.
Favre? Yeah.
Yep. You're right.
What
Good
was
call.
that then? Favre versus Bledsoe?
Yep.
Mhm.
Yep.
I just remember
Favre
those
and
cool
Bledsoe.
uniforms they used to have. Remember, it was like the star and the stripe or whatever it was, kind of going up their sleeve.
Mm-hmm.
I remember those uniforms. Those
Yeah.
were cool.
And then they had the better logo
Yeah.
of the football player in their uniform snapping the ball.
Mm-hmm.
They used to have a way better logo. Of course, I was never alive to watch them play in it. But
YouTube.
So
Yeah.
2 other with Tom Brady, they made it to 2007, lost to
Eli Manning.
Eli Manning and the Giants. 2011,
Eli
Eli
Manning.
Manning and the Giants, and then I think it was 2018, and then that's when they lost to the Eagles. I think was that year. Was that with the Foles?
Mhm.
Yeah, it
So,
was. Yep.
Yeah. They've been division champs 22 times, but only 5 before Tom Brady.
Jesus.
They're NFC, obviously AFC East.
Keep diving this. I feel bad for Kel.
They've been to the playoff 28 times, which is really good, I think, out of 65 years.
Yeah.
But there were only 9 playoff appearances before Tom Brady.
Oh, wow.
So
Only
he
9?
took him to 18.
Bledsoe played for what, 8 years? Probably took him to
2.
He only took him to
I
2
think he only
appearances?
took him to 2 playoffs, I think is what it was.
Wow.
Yeah. 2 or 3, but I want to say 2. But yeah, it's
So was it
crazy.
Back in when they were the Boston Patriots that they had their other 6 or whatever.
Yeah, for the playoffs. No, they made it in the obviously 85, 96.
Oh.
They made it in the 80s. I think what was the other 85 was with can't remember who they played. I think might have been the Washington Redskins. But yeah, I just think it's crazy that only 9 were before Tom Brady, and then 19 were with Hall of Famers that have been spent time there. Nick Bonaconte, he was there from linebacker from 62 to 68. Guard John Hanna, 73 to 85. Cornerback Mike Haynes, 76 to 82. Cornerback Ty Law, 94 to 04, which that means he's a 3-time Super Bowl champion with them. Running back Curtis Martin's on here. He did spend in his early years 95 to 97, and then I think he's most notable with the Jets. So
Mhm.
Randy Moss was there for 3 or 4 seasons, and I put him on here for sure because he had his best season with them when he broke the touchdown record.
Yeah.
And I think that was 2007.
Mm,
Was that his first season there? I can't remember.
I can't
Oh
remember
no,
either.
I was anywhere from -2 to 2 when that happened. So
Cornerback Darrell Revis was there for 1 season. I put him on there because he's big name. Linebacker Junior Seau was there for 3 seasons. Richard Seymour, defensive end, really good defensive end from 01 to 08. And linebacker Andre Tippett, 82 to 93. So those are the Hall of Famers. They have their own Hall of Fame, which includes some of the players that I did put on the most notable, like Mike Vrabel, Willie McGinnis. I think Troy Brown was on there, Teddy Bruschi, Gerard Mayo, Lawyer Malloy, Sante Samuel. Players like that were on their own. I didn't write down the whole thing.
Teddy Bruschi, what a badass name.
Yeah. Retired numbers there is a number 12. I don't remember who wore that jersey.
Doesn't ring a bell.
No. Yeah, number 12, Tom Brady. Number 20, Gino Cappelletti. Number 40, Mike Haynes. Number 57, Steven Nelson. Number 73, John Hanna. 78, Bruce Armstrong. 79, Jim Lee Hunt. 89, Bob D. So you got one kicker in there is Gino Cappelletti. But the rest are like, guard, tackle, defensive tackle. So
Imagine getting drafted to the Patriots and you're a top 10 pick and you want what was it, 59? Or you want whatever number it was. Nope, can't get him because of a kicker.
yeah,
Sorry.
right. Yeah, well, number 20.
Yeah.
Yeah, you want to be a running back or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Coaches, going to the coaches real quick. You got Mike Holovac, 61 to 68. He was 107, 52, and 9.
Yeah. That's pretty good.
Chuck Fairbanks, unless I wrote something wrong, but they had some pretty good coaching going on here. I might have messed up somewhere, but it seemed pretty high. 85 and 46. Raymond Berry, 86.
That's games. So
Okay, I did games. Gotcha.
yeah, Chuck Fairbanks coached in 85 games. He was 46 and 39.
Thank you. Yeah, see, that's why I was sitting there looking at it going, man, I
That's
wrote it
insane,
on
man.
Bill Belichick, but for some reason I didn't write it on theirs. Bill Parcells, I think he coached, 64 games then?
Mm-hmm.
32 wins and then 32 losses, I
Yep.
believe. No ties. Pete Carroll, I think he coached in 48 games. I think he was 27 and 21, something like that.
Yep.
97 and 99.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously the big one is Bill Belichick. He was there from 2000 to 2023, coached in 387 games. His record was 266 and 121. He had a 68% win percentage.
Overrated.
Yeah, right. In the playoffs alone, he coached in 42 playoff games and he was 30 and 12.
Wow.
So that's pretty incredible.
Got carried by Tom Brady.
Yeah, and then they had Gerard Mayo was the coach last season? I think he only did 1 year, 1.5 actually. I think he took over or something. Maybe he just did 1 season.
He just one season yet.
Just 1 full season, and now it's Mike Vrabel, and which is a linebacker.
Better than Bill Belichick.
So yeah, right. Leaders there, obviously Tom Brady is their quarterback leader with the most yards, 74,511. It's insane. 541 touchdowns. I looked on there. I think second to that was Drew Bledsoe, and Drew Bledsoe was just shy of 30,000. So I mean, he's got them by quite a few there.
I think he's got the all-time passing yards record by quite a bit too.
I think so.
Is Breeze number 2?
I think so.
I think
Breeze or
he's-
Manning.
I think Bruce is 2 for yards, and then Manning, he has some beaten touchdowns, right?
Yeah.
So-
Does Tom Brady have the most touchdowns too?
I thought it was Manning
Does
and Brady
Manning have?
too. I'm not sure. I
can't
know.
remember either.
I remember when watching the game when Peyton Manning broke 500.
Mhm.
Who were they playing? I can't remember what it was. A back corner of the end zone pass. Time to who was it? Can't remember the receiver either. I just remember the big old 500 on the scoreboard and
Yeah, that would have had
Oh,
to
that
been
one
with
he
the
was with the
Broncos. So
Broncos.
it's
Yeah.
probably what was their big wide
I
receiver
was
there?
thinking of Thomas.
Maybe
But I
Thomas
don't
or
remember
Decker
who
or
was
somebody
Yeah.
probably around that time. That's
Right.
crazy. 74,000 is a wild number.
That's insane. Yeah, over 40,000 yards. No, 44,000 yards more than their next guy. Running back. This is where I kind of got surprised. Guys I hadn't really heard of that much. Running back was Sam Cunningham, 5,483, 43
Not that the
touchdowns.
white guy that went to the Super Bowl with him.
Oh,
Burkhead?
Burkhead? No, no. Wide receiver was Stanley Morgan. I was thinking it was going to be what was it, Troy Brown?
Oh yeah.
I thought for sure that's who that was going to be. And that ended up being Stanley Morgan with 10,382 and 67 touchdowns. Scoring is Gostkowski, which I was kind of up in the air about him or Vinatieri.
Yeah, I was thinking
yeah.
of Terry, but
But it's
That's
Gostkowski at 1,775 points.
God damn,
Jeez.
that's a lot.
Their winningest coach is, of course, Belichick. He went
Overrated.
266 and 121 and 0. Like we said, that's amazing. That's
And
really
about
good.
40 of those were with Mac Jones at the 121.
Right. Devin McCourty, the cornerback Devin McCourty, sorry, actually led in tackles. That's what I have.
Oh wow.
Really?
So 740 tackles, and I looked a couple times.
I knew
pretty
he
sure
was
that's
good. I didn't
legit
know
on
he was
there,
that
but
good though.
yeah,
That's crazy.
I was really surprised. Andre Tippett is their leader in sacks at 100 sacks exactly.
That makes sense.
And Ty Law and Claiborne are tied at 36 interceptions apiece to lead for interceptions.
That's a pretty good bit. Ty Law was a damn good corner.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, he was really good. And then I mean, I'll just continue on to some other names and stuff like that, man, because it's like I already named a few. Gronkowski, obviously, the dude was a beast, hell of a tight end. Stephon Gilmore was there. I think he's the one who made the game-winning interception against the Seahawks when they didn't run it.
Yep.
Right, that was Gilmore, wasn't it?
I don't think it was. It was whoever their nickel back was, and it was Gilmore.
Was it
wasn't
Gilmore?
But
Okay.
Gilmore, that dread-headed beast, man. He
Yeah.
was insane.
He was
Like,
good, yeah.
Patrick Chung was another guy I had to bring up. I remember seeing him play. Vince Wilfork, if I didn't mention him, he was a beast. You guys, Kevin Falk was a heck of a running back.
Mhm.
He's another running back that I thought it might have been on that list for the most. Wes Welker, Julian Edelman, Drew Bledsoe. And I'd be remiss and kind of weird if I didn't mention Aaron Hernandez,
Yeah.
because the dude was a hell of an athlete.
He was,
just,
yeah.
a little bit of a psychopath there, too.
yeah, I
So,
think that was like they needed a new team psychiatrist in Florida when he was there.
yeah,
that
they
whole
needed
team went off the
something.
rails.
They needed something, man. And then it was funny, too, because one of their nicknames was the Boston Tea Party during that time, because TE for tight end.
Hmm.
Because they held on to that for a couple
Yeah.
of years, because you had, two incredible
Mhm.
athletes at tight end, and Hernandez and Gronkowski. So, it's crazy the list of players. Doing this one was like, my God, over the past 25 years, these guys have just basically owned the NFL.
Yeah.
I mean, they hit on scouting, they hit on their draft picks. They really did it. They developed well. Guys, didn't even know what would come from other teams that you didn't even really hear of.
Mhm.
They go there and they become a star. Even Junior Seau, he went there and he played a really hell of a game in the Chargers. But when he went there, it was, he even turned it up a little bit. And that was at the end of his career. So I
Right.
can't say he had his best years there. I'm just saying, like, he wasn't done. You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
In my biggest, I guess, I can't think of the word. The biggest thing,
Admirable.
biggest thing I like about Tom Brady is that list. A huge part of that list being so long is Tom Brady never asked for the money he deserved.
Yep.
He was
I totally
never
agree.
a super
Right.
insane paid quarterback like he should have been. He could have signed a 10-year, $500 million deal like Mahomes did, but
Mhm.
I think 25 mil most of his career was about his yearly salary.
Hmm.
'Cause he did it for the love of the game.
Yeah. And I don't really think that he had really insane athletic wide receivers. Pretty much, aside from Randy Moss,
Randy
the whole
Moss,
time
yeah.
he was there, he made wide receivers. I'm not saying they didn't try to draft him. I'm just saying that they might not have hit on wide receivers. And then the second he got a wide receiver, they went 16-0 and come up short in the Super Bowl of a
Mhm.
perfect season, but 16-0, and at one point they broke the wide receivers touchdown record. I think Randy Moss had 22 that season.
Yeah, 22 or 23, something like that.
And that's pretty awesome. That's great. Jerry Rice did it in half a season. or 12 games, I
Mhm.
should say, because of the strike that year. So Jerry Rice is still the GOAT, but
Yeah, it's too bad he couldn't. Too bad Julian Edelman couldn't put out those touchdown numbers, man.
yeah,
He's just such a character too. I love watching him on podcasts now that he doesn't play football. And
yeah.
he's a hell of a guy.
Totally different skill set than Randy Moss, though.
Mhm.
Like
Oh yeah,
totally
oh
different
yeah,
wide receiver. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like you look at those two, you got a tall, lengthy Randy Moss who can jump out of the stadium, and and then you got Julian Edelman who's just like basically picking apart defenses over the middle, small. So yeah, and they used them all. Wes Welker was the same way. They made
Mhm.
guys. So
yeah, yeah. I mean, I think Tom Brady did it all. I think Gronk. I don't know if he's one of those guys that you're like, is he really just that great? Because he's. I mean, I think either way he's a top 5 tight end all time. But it's like with Tom Brady, it's like, is he number 1 or is he number 5? He just played with the best quarterback of all
yeah,
time.
yeah, just that question you can always throw around. When you got great players that play together, though. So
Yeah.
I remember the 2007 Super Bowl. Was that the year that so they were 16-0. That was when they were trying to be the second team ever to go undefeated, and how shocked I was after that Super Bowl that
yeah,
the New York Giants just completely shut down that offense, because that's when Moss broke all the records and Tom Brady was probably throwing for over 5,000 yards and probably about 45 plus touchdowns, and it was just like
yep,
nobody could stop him. And I remember them playing the New York Giants. I think it was the last week of the season, so week 17, to go undefeated. And it was always the talk of like, hey, do we want to chase the record or be healthy going to the playoffs? Well, they played their the story always was that the Patriots wanted to go undefeated, so they played their starters well. The New York Giants defensive coordinator, he's Spagnuolo. He was their
yeah,
defensive coordinator, and he's remember having an interview, and he was talking about how vanilla they played everything in about. What really clicked for him was like he's like, we weren't doing anything, and he's like, our defensive line was just kind of dominating that last game of the. I mean, obviously the Patriots won, but
hmm
he's like, it kind of clicked as soon as they played him in the Super Bowl. It's like, oh yeah, we're gonna dominate this game. And really, you look back, and it was like Justin Tuck and Strahan,
Strahan,
and
yep,
that just dominant defensive line. And I just remember that was like the first time watching like the Super Bowl, just being like shocked by the outcome. Like, oh my god, like I did not expect this, because they only
yeah,
scored like
no,
14
yeah,
points,
I think
even if
it
that
ended up being like
13.
13.
Yeah, it was just mind blowing to me that that
Yeah,
could
they
happen to the Patriots, and it was
they
just like, yeah.
dominated that.
What was the final score of that game?
It was a one-score game, because I
Yeah,
remember
it
the
was like
Patriots
17
got
to
the ball
13
back
or
and they had a
something.
chance to like tie or win it in the end, but they were so far like as far as to go to score a
Yeah,
touchdown. But
I want to say it was like 17 to
yeah,
13 or
and
something
that
like
was like
that.
the helmet catch game, and it was just like everything kind of seemed to go right, and it was
Yeah,
like, oh my gosh,
yeah,
it
they
was
needed that just to get a first
yeah.
down, and
I mean, I think that was like just the first time, and then the second time it happened, it was kind of like, oh my gosh, not again, because you always thought the Patriots were like, and the Giants going into the Super Bowl were never like this dominant team. I think they got in like barely squeaking in as a wild card team both times, and they
mhm,
just kind of made like a little run to get to the Super Bowl,
yep,
and they're going up against the powerhouse Patriots, and they beat them both times. It was like, oh,
yeah,
And both
yeah,
times it was low one score
yeah, it
games,
was,
right?
yeah,
It's
yeah, and
like
it was
yep,
like Mario Manningham with that sideline
it
catch.
was, yeah, that's
I mean, it was
crazy.
just there was always something crazy in those games.
Yep.
because a lot of people, I mean, a lot of people my age completely forget that Eli Manning's a 2-time Super Bowl champ.
hmm
But a lot of guys your age mentioned that about Eli a lot. It's like,
Hmm.
well, it was clearly the defense.
It was, yeah,
They
Yeah,
scored like 40 points, less than 40 in 2 Super Bowl games. So
yeah. I
yep,
don't think a lot of people our age at all who watched him come in and saw the whole time that Eli Manning was there. There isn't. I don't know a lot of people who are like, yeah, he was elite.
hmm
There isn't. I mean, he didn't when you watch him play, it didn't seem like it. It just they just had it in other areas. They always had a good run game,
yeah.
and the defense was there. I mean, Strahan played there, and he was
oh
just
man,
a stud.
didn't they have that Tiki Barber in one of those Super Bowl
I
runs?
don't know if he was there
I
for
don't remember either.
2007 or not. He actually surprised everybody because he retired early, but I don't
Yeah,
remember how early.
I can't remember.
I think we'll be getting to that one. You will be getting to that one in the next
Yeah.
one, so you
There
can
we
tell
go.
us on
Yeah,
the next episode.
I think
So,
one of the things that's surprising to me is they went on that 3 Super Bowls in 4 years at the beginning. So 01, 03, and 04.
hmm
And then they didn't win another one until 14. So there's like,
10 years.
you really don't see it. And it's pretty much the same head coach, the same, all-world quarterback. But I mean, you go. I look at this stretch. This is just an insane stretch, and I didn't realize this until looking at it. In 2011, they lost Super Bowl. Then there's a stretch: lost Super Bowl, lost conference championship, lost conference championship, won Super Bowl, lost conference championship, won Super Bowl, lost Super Bowl, won Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So from 2011 through 2018 season, they were in the conference championship every
Yep.
year.
And I think that's really when the hate for
It's
Tom Brady
crazy,
started
yeah.
coming.
I was like, oh my, that's crazy. That's a
Yep.
wild, and that's like towards when he was getting in his like mid to late 30s, and he
Yep.
was like still playing like that.
Incredible. Yeah.
And like you said, just the different like teams around him and Bill Belichick, and just the way that they were able to like draft and do free agency. I just remember like it was kind of shocking when they like were trading like people like Chandler Jones at the end of their rookie contract because they were just going to reload with somebody else rather than pay him
Yeah.
on their defense.
Mhm.
And Bill Belichick would trot out like a top 5 defense every year with these guys that he was just kind of putting together, which was surprising to me. And then you said they really never had anybody huge besides Gronkowski. He turned into somebody big, but he wasn't a high draft pick.
Mhm.
Besides Randy Moss for Tom Brady to throw the ball to. Welker and Edelman were good, but they were strictly like your get your tough yards over the middle
Yep.
type of receivers to get open whenever you need them to get you a first down. But and then looking at running backs, so starting after Corey Dillon was there, Corey Dillon was a good running back, right?
Mhm.
They had Maroney, Morris, Maroney, Green Ellis, Ridley, Gray, Blunt, Lewis, Michael, Harris, and Harris all the years that come.
Michael, was it
So Michelle,
Sony
sorry,
Michel,
Sony
yeah.
Michel,
Sony
yes.
Michel. Yep.
So
I
it's
was
just
thinking
like
about it. I was thinking about
almost
I mentioned
Kevin
Burkhead.
Falk and
I was mentioning Burkhead. I was like, man, he was paired with another.
yeah.
They had that faster, shifty guy, and then they
Yep.
had
Yeah.
Burkhead.
So it's just like every 2 years they're like, okay, you're
Mhm.
probably contracts are getting up or something like that. You're due to get paid, or we're just gonna supplement you in for somebody else.
Yeah.
It's just crazy how dominant they were with just really those probably 3 key pieces: Belichick, Brady, and Gronkowski
Right.
for so long.
So and it was funny because early on, and I think they probably held to it too, but it seemed like definitely early on when we watched them beat the Rams in their first Super
Mhm.
Bowl. I mean, their defense just was so good against the greatest show on turf,
Yep.
you know. And then you go and you're like, okay, that might have been a one-up type thing, one shot. So they
Mhm.
lost the next season. They made the playoffs, I believe, and everything, but they didn't make the Super Bowl. And then they come back, and you're like, wow. And then I remember their offensive line was so damn good, and they had a defense. And I remember their offensive line was doing commercials with Tom Brady because they were like, dude, you're being carried by this offensive line, you know. And then they did commercials like for like American just credit card commercials and
Mhm.
shit.
Mhm.
And then so you look at it and you're like, okay, you know, is Tom Brady really that good, or is it the team around him type of thing? Because at first you're thinking that maybe it is the O line, maybe it is the
Mhm.
defense, because that defense was solid and they hit. They actually changed rules because of that defense and how aggressive. I mean,
Yeah.
they were probably already breaking, you know what I mean, some of the rules by doing it, but
Mhm.
they really did, and especially in the secondary. And so, but then once you get into the later stages of, you know, when, like you said, like '07, and then when he didn't win a Super Bowl, it seemed like for a little while, that's when you realized like Tom Brady is actually Tom
Right.
Brady. He's that good. He's the one who's keeping him around.
Mhm.
And so, but I do think they subscribe to that. Let's make sure that he has the offensive line, and let's make sure that we have a defense, and then he'll make our wide receivers good.
Yeah.
I was going to
You
say,
know.
could you imagine if he had C.J. Stroud's offensive line? He would have retired at 28.
He would have
We'd
Andrew
still be
Lucked it.
talking about we'd
Yeah.
still be talking about Joe Montana, or maybe even we'd be calling Drew Brees the GOAT right now.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, and that was I think what happened to him too was like, you know, after a while it was like other teams kind of caught on. They did change some rules so their
Mhm.
defense wasn't allowed to be as handsy as they were, you know, coming out of the break and everything.
Yeah.
They changed a lot of this. Finally started calling a lot of the jersey rips and pulls and stuff. So that definitely helped other teams, but really I think teams caught on. I think you had teams like, you know, Peyton Manning settled in with the Colts. They started putting a team around him a lot more. I think they started catching up. Obviously not as good, but you know, they were there with them the whole time. And then you see, you know, some other teams were kind of catching up. And the AFC was kind
Mhm.
of behind there for a minute. And then the AFC in the '90s and stuff like that wasn't that good. They just weren't that good.
Mhm.
And then they caught up to them, I think. In the, you know, I'm trying to think of the other teams that were good at that point.
Well, you look
Um,
at like just the quarterbacks that played with Brady, like around the same age. It was like Peyton Manning, Philip Rivers, and Ben
Roethlisberger,
Roethlisberger.
yeah.
All three are all those guys are in the AFC combined. So it's kind of like how it's history's kind of repeating itself because it kind of seems like that's where the top quarterbacks are. You got like Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen and Lamar and Joe Burrow,
Yep.
all in the AFC.
You say Joe Burrow, but not C.J. Stroud.
C.J. Stroud's in the AFC as well. But it just kind of seems like history's kind of repeating itself with.
The only difference is you look at those AFC quarterbacks back then, Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, guys like that, and they're slow as hell and throwing for 5,000 yards. Now you got guys that are running and throwing for just over 4,000 or 3,500 or so.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it's definitely like you said, it's repeating itself, but it's a whole different ballgame now too.
Yeah, you look back at this era. It was like Drew Brees and Peyton Manning and Tom Brady, like all vying to throw for 5,000 yards, like you said, and now it's like guys are vying. If you throw for over 4,000, you're doing good.
Yeah.
Now, which is kind of crazy.
Yep. And that's the benchmark. It seems like right now we just want to see a guy be able to just be like, all right, dude, 4,500 maybe,
Yeah, can you hit 4,500? But nope, that was, by week 14, you're looking at guys at 4,500.
Right.
Peyton Manning times.
Well, I think.
And they got an extra game now.
Yeah, Joe Burrow had like 4,500 yards last year with 17 games, and it was just like, oh man, he tore it up. But you look back and like how Peyton Manning threw for 5,500 yards one season, so he threw for an extra 1,000 yards with one less game.
Yeah, you go back to anything in the 2010s, and he's number 6, maybe
that's
if
crazy.
He's lucky.
Yeah,
passing yards.
Yeah, it's wild. Yeah, so going forward, I think this year, if we're kind of moving into this next season with Mike Vrabel as the coach, I don't know. I felt kind of like when we first heard that they fired Gerard Mayo after one season, and you were kind of like, you know what? I think this was the plan. So I was like, you might be right, because I think Vrabel was more proven as a coach, and I think they've just come accustomed to winning there. So they were like, you know what? Gerard Mayo might be a good coach, but we're not going to wait. We're not going to be the one to develop him here. This isn't going to,
Right.
And so Vrabel, I think they got the right coach. I think they went out and they were very active. And
do you think Vrabel's a good guy? Good question to ask you. Didn't you talk to him in an airport at once?
No. You keep
I keep thinking it's Vrabel. Who was it?
No, it was you said that a couple times. It was the Rams old coach, Fisher.
Fisher.
Yeah,
Jeff
Fisher.
I don't know why I keep thinking Vrabel.
I talked to him. He just was really confused and looking for his where he had to board at. He was looking, what do they call that, terminal. He was looking for his terminal. I was like, hey man, are you Jeff Fisher? He's like, yeah. I was like, cool, nice to meet you. And just, and he goes, hey, do you know where this terminal's at? I was like, how the fuck would I know where that's at? I'm like, hey, I'm just a fan, man. I like football. I don't know this airport, but yeah.
Hey, do you work here?
Yeah, exactly.
That's funny.
Yeah, he didn't give a damn that I was there as a fan.
Why don't you go hop on your private plane, man?
Right. No, he was flying just
Commercial.
Economy or whatever.
Okay, well, we get back to the Patriots now.
So I think that they were probably one of the most aggressive teams. I would say like second maybe to a team we did like the Raiders. And I actually just kind of like more of their moves better. Stephon Diggs is decent, but I don't know if he's the guy. That's the only place I don't like that they went was they didn't do enough of wide receiver. I know that all their guys that they have on the depth chart are kind of new. Stephon Diggs, Mac Hollins, Kyle Williams is a draft pick in the third. They still have Kendrick Bourne, which he just hasn't ever panned out to be that great.
Yeah.
At past those three, they don't really have anybody. So that's the only spot. But like other than that, man, they got good at 3 new offensive linemen, which they needed from last season. Garrett Bradbury, I think he's going to be a good center. Morgan Moses, they brought in from the Jets, who I don't remember if he was an actual starter for the Jets.
I don't remember.
I think that he's going to be an upgrade from what they had. And then, of course, I think Will Campbell was a steal in the draft. I think he was one of the most pro-ready picks. Then on defense, they went out and got Milton Williams, which is big. We're still wondering. We like the pick. I think what we talked about was we like that pick, but is he going to be another Philadelphia transplant that doesn't do that good? But still, he played really well. Harold Landry III as linebacker. I think he's going to be getting to the quarterback there. Robert Spillane, Carlton Davis. They really went for it, and I like what they put together here. They went pretty heavy on the defense in the draft as well. Joshua Farmer, Braden Swinson, Craig Woodson, and Kobe Minor, who I thought was probably going to be up higher on the depth chart than he is, but I really like what they put together. I really like that they were smart with Will Campbell, because Will Campbell's going to be probably their lineman, that he's going to be an anchor there
Yeah.
for a long time. And I really like what they did there. So really, I got pretty excited about Drake May last season before, when he was drafted, before he came in. Me and Gage were talking about him from North Carolina.
Best QB in the class.
And
Still hold to it.
it took him a while. I'm glad that they kind of set him and tried out what they had with
Jacoby Brissett.
Jacoby.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but I think when he did come in, he gave a pretty good sample for what he had there. The cover was pretty bare, and I think by that time they were probably injury riddled and
Mhm.
everything like every other team too. So, and he was, he was getting hit a lot. They needed to address that offensive line, but
I just wish he sat behind some legendary quarterback like Drew Bledsoe and would be looking at another Tom Brady. It would suck to see go back to the same franchise, but I
Mhm.
really think if he had a mentor like Tom Brady had coming out, he'd definitely be.
how many quarterbacks do you think they drafted late in the draft and thought this is going to be Tom Brady's heir apparent, and then he played for another 10 years,
Mhm.
and then they draft another quarterback,
Yeah.
and they're like, oh, this one's going to be Tom Brady's
Right.
heir apparent.
Well, that's probably what they did with Jimmy
Jimmy
Garoppolo,
Garoppolo,
too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Then he went to the Niners and
Yep.
took us to a Super Bowl.
Yep, that's true. I'm always a little hesitant on teams that spend a lot that you don't want to be the team. I mean, I don't remember a time where you win the offseason and you're good.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But the moves that they made always they make sense to me. But that's why I'm just a little bit more cautious of, usually the teams that spend a lot of money in free agency and usually don't pan out
Mhm.
in my opinion. The only difference was Washington last year, but they really didn't spend like big. They just brought in pieces pretty much to fill in
Right.
holes, and they ended up just being good because
And they
Jaden
hit on their
Daniels,
quarterback.
they did
yeah.
hit on the quarterback. I think
I
I'm
think
with
the
Gage.
Bucks weren't really built through the draft, though. They brought in Baker and they brought in a couple other pieces through
Mhm.
there. And then
That's true, yeah.
I think it's, I
Yeah,
mean,
they had
I
a pretty
think you
good
see-
nucleus there, and
I think their
That's what I was
offensive
gonna
line,
say.
their
That's
offensive
That's what I was
line
going to say.
yeah,
I think you see a lot of success with it when there's a lot of free agents coming in to a 7 or 8 win team
Mhm.
instead of a 4 to 5 win team.
Right.
So I feel like they might not have had that. I guess a couple guys to build around that other teams have had. But I mean, I think it's going to work out.
Yeah. One of the off-season moves that you didn't mention is their offensive coordinator, Josh McDaniels.
Oh yeah.
He
I
has
was like,
found
wait,
his
what?
way home.
Yeah, okay.
Josh
No,
McDaniels strays away every once in a while to take a head coaching
Mhm.
job, and he gets fired,
You're
and
right.
he keeps
You're
on
right.
coming
I
back
did-
home where he belongs. So
I did see that when I did my dive, but I forgot to mention it. Yeah, you're
Yep.
right. And then
Oh.
even when you mentioned my mind went blank. I was like, who? And then yeah,
So I don't know how to feel about Josh McDaniels. He might be another
Yeah.
byproduct of Tom Brady, to be
Mhm.
honest with you. But
Keeps
somebody
getting
who's
chances.
somebody who knows offense and is kind of proven to be decent offensive coordinator, I guess. If you want to say he was an offensive coordinator with Tom Brady,
Mhm.
he might just
Right.
be a product of a Tom Brady system.
He held Tom's clipboard.
Yep.
Well-
But you're bringing somebody experienced in to work with Drake May, which I think is good.
I mean,
Mhm.
if you really look at their play calls and stuff, the stuff they did to get like those not very good wide receivers open for Tom Brady to hit the ball, I think he
That's
did
true, yeah.
enough. I don't think he was just.
Yeah.
I think he's definitely just one of those guys that needs to realize he's just a coordinator and stop taking head coaching jobs.
Yeah, I think so too. He might be the Washington guy, Cliff Kingsbury type, to where he didn't really pan out as a head coach, but he kind of found his calling just being an offensive coordinator in the league. Which
Well, then that DC for the Vikings is the same
Yeah,
way.
Brian
He's tried a
Flores.
couple. He's
That's
tried a
true,
couple
yeah.
head coaching jobs, and he's
Yep.
just insane at DC and just can't head coach for some reason.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But all the pieces that they brought in, obviously they needed to make changes to the offensive line. I think it was one of the worst. Every time I turned the TV on, like on Red Zone channel, Drake May was running for his life. Kind
Yeah.
of seemed like, and he didn't. The people he was throwing the ball to, I was just like, I don't even know who this guy is.
Right.
And he's not great at running for his life. That's the other thing too. He's definitely
Yeah, it's not his thing as a running
Right.
quarterback.
yeah.
They brought in Trayvon Henderson. I really like that. Ramondre Stevenson. I mean, he was kind of up and down last year. It kind of seemed like he started off really slow, and then that other running back took over. But drafting Trayvon Henderson, I liked him out of Ohio State. I think he'll probably bring a different element to that running game.
Yeah, I think he was a
Mhm.
first round talent.
I
but
think
they
so too. Yeah.
fell to him in the second round. So I like that pick. I'm actually kind of shocked that Ramondre's still the starter.
Mhm.
Although, I mean, there's preseason, there's a lot of stuff, a lot of chances for Travion to take it, but I do think Travion eventually will have that starting job.
It's almost like the complete opposite of the last show that we did with the Jaguars, who obviously they brought in a new coaching staff, a new coach, and didn't do anything in the offseason really, as far as bringing free agents in. And you look at the Patriots, who bring in a legend in their playing days with Mike Vrabel, who has a proven record at Tennessee of being a good head football coach.
He got carried by Derrick Henry.
He might have, yes, and AJ Brown, but they were a number. I do remember them being a number one seed in the AFC one or two of the years that he was there.
I think he's a really good talent spotter.
I think so too.
He always found good guys to slot in. And
I think he's a really good motivator too.
I think people like playing for him. To be honest with you,
yeah.
He might be like a new age Gage's favorite, Mike Tomlin.
Yeah. Yeah,
Hopefully not, because I want to see Drake May win some Super Bowls. So,
oh, that's
really
funny.
hope he's not Mike Tomlin.
Yeah.
So I can see like a lot of the people that they brought in. It wasn't just like big name. I know Milton Williams was a big name, but it was only for really like one season. And you play like we always talk about the Philadelphia factor. You don't know what you're getting, and they pay big money for him, but they still have Christian Barrymore on that as a nose tackle. I really like him as a nose tackle. Harold Landry comes from Tennessee. I don't really remember too much about him the last couple years that Mike Vrabel wasn't there, but when Vrabel was there, I thought he was a really good linebacker. Carlton Davis coming from Detroit, and Spillane, I don't think he brings much in coverage. He's a really good in-between tackles.
Yeah.
I think tackler from Las Vegas. I think he played for the Steelers before that, if I remember right. But all the pieces look good on paper. Obviously, they needed to make changes. I like Kyle Duggar as a safety that they drafted a few years ago. Jabril Peppers as the other safety. I liked him.
He was out of Michigan, wasn't he?
Yeah. And then Christian Gonzalez, I think, is probably a top 5 cornerback in the league. So bringing in Vrabel, who's a proven head coach, defensive guy. Josh McDaniels, he doesn't have to worry about the offense. McDaniels can come in and kind of run the offense with Drake May and hopefully some of those pieces that with Stephon Diggs, Matt Collins, Kyle Williams. Jalen Polk, I almost forgot he was on the team, but he was a second-round draft pick last year out of Washington.
Yeah, I was going to say, when he was talking about the wide receivers and they have nobody, they got somebody who I haven't lost complete faith in. I think he's got some good talent, and he's just way far down the depth chart for some reason.
Maybe McDaniels can kind of unlock something in him, which would be good, because I liked him coming out of Washington.
I do like what they did with both Stephon Diggs and Matt Collins, because now Stephon had that experience in Buffalo.
Yeah.
So he's used to the weather, and Matt Collins, that guy goes and stands in the snow barefooted.
Yeah, he's a weird.
He's definitely used Matt Collins.
Oh, yeah.
You remember they were talking about him?
You're right.
Yeah. He does a bunch of weird stuff.
Yeah.
So
cold foot.
Yeah, I mean, they did bring out a couple guys that are good for the weather, too.
Yeah. The one thing that I felt like they could have addressed a little bit better, I mean, other than I thought the wide receivers are just okay as well, but one thing, and I did mention it during my free agent one, was the pass rushers. Although I do like Harold Landry. I think that he will get there, because I think they're going to use him as that outside back who's going to, I think they run a 3-4.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, he's definitely an edge rusher. That's what he did in Tennessee.
And I know they got some guys in the draft, like I said, Farmer and Swinson, like we mentioned. But I also feel like, and just because he's there, I feel like you got like Von Miller still out there, Jadeveon Clowney. I just think that, if they have it, to try to put into something, if they wanted to get another piece, they could go and maybe find somebody who they could swing in there, especially one of those guys who doesn't have to play every down. Because if you can get Von Miller in there, who's not going to be able to give you that much anyway, he's 36, but if he only has to play, 15 to 20 snaps a game, he might be able to do some good there. So other than that, I like what they did, and you're right. I mean, on paper, that's all we got so far, but we'll see what happens. Maybe by the time the season starts, we'll be like, yeah, we were wrong. Patriots aren't that good, but I honestly, I think that was the only thing that's holding me back from like giving them a better grade than the Raiders, because I think we were all pretty high on the Raiders coming into this next season. I think the only thing different is we're still unproven at quarterback, where the Raiders, Geno, he's proven that he can be a good quarterback and that he's had multiple seasons.
Yeah.
Whereas, Drake May, he's only given us half a season to look at. So I think going into this season, I'm thinking, I think that their division's a little bit easier, but I'm thinking like 10-7. And I think, and I say their division's a little bit easier because the Jets have been down. The Dolphins, I mean, they did get a good piece, and Minka Fitzpatrick,
Yeah, they just made that
um,
trade, but they gave up a really good tight end, and
yeah, and Jalen Ramsey. So they
yeah,
gave up Johnny Smith and Ramsey. So there's moves being made there that are trying to get better. I'm not a huge fan of the Dolphins and what they have going on right now. Jets, I'm not a huge fan of what they have going on right now. So I mean, you got the Bills that I think are still going to they're going to win this division. I think again, but I do feel like the Patriots are going to be the second with this division and if Drake May can play really well, they could possibly get to 11 wins, but I'd probably say 9 or 10 wins for him this next season. And I like what they did. I don't think you're going to see him picking in the top 10, possibly a playoff team.
yeah. Well, now I want to hear Jared's next because I feel like you'll be in the middle of us both.
I was gonna float around the idea they'll probably be around 500. Well, I know you can't be 500 anymore with 17 games, but
Were you thinking 8 or 9 wins?
9 seems kind of high to me. Like I said,
So below 500, not around
yeah,
500.
so 8 and 9. I was gonna say 8 and 9. There's gonna be the record probably. On the high end. So I think their ceiling probably is 8 and 9.
Okay.
It's just hard for me to look at all the pieces that they brought in from, different teams and different systems and everything and have them gel in the first year. If we were going into like 2026 and, they won 7 or 8 games this year, I would be more high on them just because okay, they got another year to gel. They're under, a new head coach or, Vrabel's going into a second year. Josh McDaniels is going a second year with Drake May. Drake May's got, different kind of more proven weapons. He's kind of building a chemistry, but I think it's just so hard bringing in a whole bunch of new people and trying to have them gel
Fair enough.
and be great. So 8
So-
and 9, I think, is
So
their
my
ceiling.
low is your high. I
Yeah.
said 9 wins, maybe 10.
Yeah.
You're like, okay.
Yeah,
So
I think
9, I'm
so.
looking at like, no. Okay.
Yeah.
No, that's fair.
I still think, the Dolphins still have they're so explosive on offense. I could still see them maybe first, if they play them like in the first 3 weeks, I can see the Dolphins getting the Patriots if they play, just because they're so explosive still on offense that, you still have Tyreek Hill before he gets hurt or gets arrested. You still have Waddle. You still have the running back that I really like.
Oh, yeah.
H-Chan.
Achane. Tua's probably
But they
going to be.
lost their backup running back. And
That's
Raheem.
true. Tua might not be hurt by the time they play the first game, maybe the second game. I'm not sure. So
Yeah.
I don't know. Bills obviously are going to be my pick to win the division, but Patriots, they could still finish probably second or third. I don't see them being the worst team in the division. With the Jets, I still think the Jets are probably. I'm going to pick them to finish last. So somewhere between 8 wins max and finishing second or third in the division.
Yeah, and that's why I wanted him to go before me this time because I'm the complete opposite. Like I said, he's going to be right in the middle.
Wow.
So I was huge on Drake May coming out last year, and I think all they did was make it better for him, and I think he's only going to get better. And I think if we're looking at Drake May breakout season this year, I think it might take a couple games because they do have a lot of guys to gel in there. But I feel like they're probably doing a pretty good job of that already, and I feel like come game time especially, I think they'll be just fine. And I think 11-12.
Wow.
I think if this team stays fully healthy, I think they're a 12-win team.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, that's a
I
couple
like
more
that,
than what
yeah.
I
I think
even
it's a-
thought as their
yeah,
I like
high,
that.
but-
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
it's a Drake May breakout season. My stat
I like
prediction
that.
for him is like 32 to 3,700 yards. So I think it's going to be a nice breakout season for him.
I like Drake May. I like him.
Yeah.
I think they did him a disservice with the talent they tried to put around him last year.
Yeah, absolutely.
definitely.
And this year, if Stephon Diggs steps up, awesome. If
Mhm.
he becomes that guy that Drake May needs, cool. But yeah, I still think their wide receivers are just okay, questionable. And then no, I like that though. That's a bold pick.
like
That's
that,
crazy.
yeah.
So what they went? They went 3-14 or 4-13. So that would be a huge step. You're
Yeah,
talking like
no,
a
that-
10.
Yeah,
we
4-9
looked at
or-
each other
yeah.
at the end of the Raiders when we said there's one more team that's going to jump
That we
higher,
like.
and we were thinking the same thing. Now you're saying that you might like the Raiders better,
Oh no. I still think that it's going to be a higher jump.
but
But
you just
not
give the
like-
Raiders better offseason grade.
Yeah, I still think the
So-
Raiders have a better chance at like 11 wins or something like that than what. And the reason I say that is because of Geno. But I do, and they put a hell of a team around him too. And their
Yeah,
situation, and they're not. I think Geno's played for what's the quarterback or the coach
Pete Carroll.
Pete Carroll before. So that's all. That's all I was saying.
Yeah, you're looking at chemistry thing. I think
Yeah,
I mean, you look at the O-line, they have 3 new guys there that are going to be studs. I'm not super sure about Morgan Moses, but I'm confident in Gary Bradbury and Will Campbell. I think they
Right.
did great on their O-line. I think they have 2 really solid tight ends that people forget about sometimes
Mhm.
in Austin Hooper and Hunter Henry. And so I think he's got 2 safety valves
That's a good
there.
call.
I like Mac Hollins, and I like Stephon Diggs if he can stop being an ass.
Mm-hmm.
And I like Kendrick Bourne when he was a Niner. So
Yeah, and you did mention that Polk too.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Might
So
come along. So
I
okay.
don't think they're star-studded, but I think they got the depth. And I think if their play calling is right, which, I said I like their play calling with their offensive coordinator during Julian Edelman days and stuff like that. So I think they're gonna have their offense clicking by week 3, week 4, and I think they're gonna
Alright.
So
really
turn
ball
up.
out.
Yeah.
No, that's cool. That's cool. Bold take. What I think is funny though, now we're getting down. We'll be entering in the top 3 next
Mhm.
episode with the Giants. But it's funny now we're running long episodes on these teams that we're getting down to their picks. So it's kind of funny. It's kind of like the draft. The closer we
Yeah.
get to it, these moves, we got a lot more to talk about. Whereas like the Eagles, yep, they're still good.
Yep,
You know what
they're
I
gonna
mean?
kick ass
It's
either way.
funny, yeah. Like, oh yeah,
Yep.
the Chiefs, yep, they're still okay. They're going to be just fine. But yeah, we got down to these teams, and yeah, we're running. Now we're running 45-minute episodes down into the top 5 here. So no, we got a lot. It's fun. It's good football talk. I like it a lot. But yeah, that was the Patriots, man. Jesus, they
Yeah.
were so dominant, and I don't know if maybe that was just an era, 25 years there, or 23 years, 24 years there, where it was just the way it was, and
Yeah.
maybe it's going to take a while, but I don't know. It sure seems like they might be able to bounce back and do something here. So
Yeah, I think we're definitely gonna have to look back at this episode because one of the 3 of us is right. We didn't really agree at all, and
well, it was
so
only a few games off, but it was from 8 to 12.
yeah,
So that is kind of
and
a
that
big
is
variance.
yeah.
So,
I mean, you see 12-win team in there; they're really damn good. You see an 8-win team, and it's like,
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
got a lot of work to do.
Yeah.
okay, but awesome. Yeah, this has been the Finley Formation. Thanks for joining us.